Hey, this is Gavin Palmer with Hero Looking for Group. GrimGriz said, it looks like I've been taking notes on his work, and he kind of asked, are you trying to create a cult? And my response is that I have always been trying to transform culture. Um, and so the root of the word culture is cult, and is and so a cult leader would be someone who is attempting to transform culture. And then I would add, you got to give the devil his due. Um, Cults are dangerous, and I'll add like a prepositional phrase, dangerous to the established order. And perhaps the established order has some embedded knowledge and embedded wisdom, and it's not even perhaps, it certainly does. And the people who are in positions of power within the established culture rightfully see those who are cult leaders as a threat to their positions of power and influence. And so those who are in positions of power and influence who do not serve the good, but are instead, they are not serving the good of all and are instead serving the good of a subset that often just becomes very narrow and finite down to the smallest set of just the self. That's the worst case, right? It's actually hard to include the whole, to give the devil his due. So yeah, when people throw around this word cult, it's because the human creature's mind has been trained, like Pavlov's dog, to respond to mouth noise that sounds and rings like cult and cult leader, right? So when people throw that word around or become defensive over the word, whatever the word is, that tends to be people who are like Pavlov's dog, who are essentially trained. And so, if you look up the word cult, what is the definition? And so I would say that the definition of a cult is directly connected to some aim. And so the cult I want to participate in is the cult which attempts to create heaven on earth, right? I want to be a part of that cult. And I don't see people being serious about that. I even see perhaps some lies, deception, and self-deception. People claiming to want to create heaven on earth. But I don't see anybody being serious about it. And so that's the aim. And I know that I am a fool and I am a sinner. I am often naive. But there's nothing wrong with aiming for creating heaven on earth. There's nothing wrong with calling it a cult. And there's nothing wrong with trying to be a leader in the cult, which is trying to do that. And because I know I'm a fool and a sinner and that I'm naive, I'm going to use what I've learned, which is don't try to destroy the tradition, which is worshipped by the conservatives. Don't try to destroy that, because when you do that, and when you try to destroy the existing structure and just replace it with something new, that causes pain and suffering and anxiety. And I know from firsthand experience as an engineer and an architect that that is a bad idea. Many engineers and architects will agree. And if they don't hire them. And so what you do is you create parallel systems and you load balance them and improve them. So that's, as a cult leader aiming for heaven on earth, I try to do that in my own life, trying to transform my own culture, my habits, and my routines. I try to do it with my wife as a husband, trying to be a cult leader, aiming for heaven on earth, learning from my mistakes because I'm a fool and a sinner and I'm naive. And I try to do that as a father with my children. I sat at the dinner table last night and I asked my 2-year old and my 5-year old and my 7-year old and my wife, how can I be a better father? My 2-year old said I should wear more pink. So, I mean, I think we got rid of my pink shirt. My 5-year old said I should play with her more. And my 7-year-old said I should wrestle harder. I should. He wants me to be rougher. He wants me to do more roughness. There's wisdom from those children. And then I try to transform the company that I work with as an employee, trying to create heaven on earth. So there's nothing wrong with joining the cult which wants to try and create heaven on earth. And there's nothing wrong with trying to become a leader, leading yourself, leading your marriage, leading your family, leading your company. And it doesn't mean like, oh, I'm the leader and trying to get the appointment and be assigned the role that comes with prestige. No, it means that you are aiming at transforming that group, whether it's just yourself or you and your spouse or you and your spouse and your children or some combination of that, and you and those and your company, and that can expand outward. There's nothing wrong with trying to transform and be a cult leader to transform people and yourself, including yourself, because that would be the necessary first step or next step always, is saying, what can I do? What can I learn to be a better cult leader trying to create heaven on earth? So that's that. Nothing wrong with a cult. Cults are dangerous, and people in positions of power within the existing structures and the existing culture can see cult leaders who are attempting to transform the culture, can see those as a threat. The ego within myself will see that as a threat. The arrogant spirit within me will see the transformation as a threat when someone attempts to say, well, perhaps you should consider changing these things about the way you behave. My ego, that is arrogant, will resist that. It's within me. And then it's the same thing when you work with other people. Every time you get someone to try to transform towards the good and help create heaven on earth, you will encounter that spirit which sees a threat. And so some people in positions of power may be evil. So moving slowly is good. And doing things in parallel so that you don't just destroy the existing structures is good. Being patient, being gentle, being humble, these are all good when you're aiming to create heaven on earth and trying to be a cult leader in order to change the culture toward the good. And hell, you may discover that you're not qualified, right? but there's nothing wrong with trying, and then recognizing it's like, recognizing that, hey, I may need help. There's probably not even an I may. I mean, there has to at some point be a church. There has to at some point be a community that's helping each other out, in which people aren't serving the self and serving mammon. So the parallel system which is being developed has, whether it's your new identity, your new it has to be developed in parallel, load tested, transformed, practiced, and then it has to produce good fruit. It has to be a light in the darkness, and it has to produce such good fruit that those who are in positions of power within the existing structures can't ignore the good fruit. I mean, even Satan loves some good fruit, right? You got a ladybug right there. That's funny. I'm gonna end it to GrimGriz. There's nothing wrong with. There's nothing inherently wrong with cults. I know GrimGriz already knows this. There's nothing inherently wrong with trying to be a cult leader. But pick your cult wisely. If you're going to try to transform the culture, pick your cult wisely. I'm almost 40 years old. I know GrimGriz is older than me. I think he knows almost everything I'm saying. So, and cult leadership is not something to avoid. Cults aren't something we should avoid, and cult leadership is not something we should avoid. We just have to be very careful about the cult that we are submitting to. Are we submitting to mammon? And then I'd say, parallel systems. Someone said you can't serve two masters. Was that person wrong? Does Satan like good fruit too? Like, if we go around and produce an abundance of fruit trees throughout the world so that, when you eat that fruit, it's got water and it's got food. We get people into those areas where the food is, where the water and the food is, and everyone on earth has food and water. Does Satan like that fruit? The naive part of me might say yes. And then, does the one who has the slaves want to provide the slaves the means to say, I don't think I'll go do that work because I got my fruit right here. I don't have to go and serve you anymore because now I'm not dependent on you, Satan. So, yeah, pretty sure Satan does not. the master, which seeks to control you, does not benefit from you becoming someone who does not depend on the master. So, I am naive, fool, and a sinner. Hey, and then is this gospel? Like, what's wrong with trying to put words out that people may receive in 100 years and say, that was the gospel of Gavin, hero looking for group? What's wrong with that? Tell me what's wrong with that, with trying to aim that way. So, I love y'all. Keep me straight. Let me know when I'm being stupid, when I'm acting like a fool. All right.